Yeah.
So
All right. We are very privileged to have a special edition of the radio show with Mark Lee on this afternoon. And as you know, last week we had, or a couple of weeks ago, we had Ole on, and he gave a lot of very good insight. I know that many of you have heard the conversations that me and Ankit and Kim and other members of the IBM.TV family have been having on our various other shows, some of which have touched on some of the things that Ole was talking about, whether that was Black Lives Matter, because I know that Kim is a big proponent of what's going to be the end run, whether there's going to be any sort of solutions or things like that, or whether it's just all kind of action and no real end game. And I know that we talked about a little bit about that the last time with Ole. And of course, Kim has also talked about some of the things about financial literacy and about currency. And of course, we've also had conversations revolving around a lot of the other things that we had in our conversations in the past, everything from environment to other things of that nature. And of course, we have definitely had conversations just in passing in some of our other programming about some of the things that are going on with some of what some people might consider the ruling families and things of that nature. So um, glad to have you back on again with me, Ole. It's such a pleasure to see you on here with me and to have this great conversation that we're going to have about just what's going on in the world and your perception of the world. On a lighter note, I do want to let you know that your assistants did send me the pictures of the cats, and I love the cats, so they definitely had that enjoyable moment with them, checking them out. Ironically, I ran across a cat yesterday. I was thinking it was a stray cat, but it had the collar and everything else. So here in my apartment complex, I went and found security, and hopefully they got him back to its rightful owner because
mm,
it did not look like it was trying to have any kind of encounter with me at all. It looked like it was just trying to enjoy its shade. I think that this is the Fourth of July weekend, so my theory is that it was probably a little shell shock from fireworks and various other things, and was like, nope. I think I'll just leave the humans alone and hang out here in the shade until I have to go home. So that's just kind of my own personal theory as to what was happening with that particular stray cat and everything. But Ole, like I said, it was great having that conversation with you last time. As I said, some of your conversation points, without specifically naming you or anything, have definitely come up in some of our other shows because this particular network has a lot of different programming, and a lot of the people are very progressive and very interested in all kinds of things. We've got folks from around the world. As a matter of fact, one of my producers is actually out of India, and one of the show hosts is out of South Africa. I think there's another one that's out of England and Australia. So we've just got folks from around the world and doing some very positive things. And of course, we've been touching on everything from what's going on with Corona, like we did in the last conversation with you, to some of the other things that are going on. So the first question I guess that I would be asking you is, I know a lot of times, even when the Occupy movement was going on, and like I told you before, I was part of that. There was that whole thing of the very small percentage of people that are ruling the world, and some people would even argue that it's only a very select few families that are actually ruling the world. I know you mentioned one individual that is in the computer world that is definitely somebody that is not a somebody that you're a big fan of, but definitely I would consider him because he's listed as one of the top 10, along with the people from Saudi Arabia and some of the Koch family, which a lot of folks know because of their political influence as one of the top 10. But is that the limit of it, or how would you define the kind of like the ruling class of the world? So, like I said, I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in hearing from you as to how you would put them in, what context you would put them in.
I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? Who is actually behind all of this mayhem? And it's really hard to know for sure. And I know for sure that I don't know. What I do know is in the world we have hidden, it goes under many different names, the deep state, the Illuminati, not the Illuminati as such, but the so-called elite, and so on. And it's the power structure is in a pyramid shape. But and what we are looking at, what you're asking for, is the top of the pyramid. But I would very strongly suggest that the pyramid is actually turned upside down, and so the top of the pyramid is the absolute bottom of the bottom of the bottom. And this is also the quality of the characters of these individuals who are trying to force their agenda upon us like extreme bullies and psychopaths. So when it comes to who's actually at the top of this power structure, I would say that we don't know. I would say that these people, or whatever they are not someone you would find on the internet, because the internet has been constructed by the military, but also with these forces in the background. So for sure, they would cover their tracks. But the ones that we are allowed to see are like the Rothschilds, which is like massive, massive, massive. You got the Rockefellers, the JP Morgans, and these type of things. But the real ones, I don't know. There's and I've also focused these 40 years more on tracking assassins and hit teams on a street level, like NATO operation or state-sponsored terrorism, but on a street level, and then leaving the bigger picture to other people who are more devoted to find out that. Because when you get into these areas of so-called conspiracies, which actually just means breathing together, but planning or carrying out criminal activity, the area are so massive. So I feel you need to focus on somewhere, on some specific topics, if you want to be part of making a difference. So the areas that I've been specializing in is top political assassinations and so-called false flag operations or state-sponsored terrorism. But I can tell you that there are groups in these levels that up where I go, where I can say I know for sure that they're in on it. In the shadow world government, you got the groups like the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome, Skull and Bones. These ones are 100% sure in the. But yet again, just because you're invited once, for instance, to the Bilderberg meeting, that doesn't mean that you're one of them. It means that they are inviting you to check out if they can control you in a certain way that they want, and if your loyalty is with them. Because we've seen people being invited and then they're not there the next year. And then you see other people that are there, like Clinton or Tony Blair or other players like that. They get invited and suddenly their career goes straight up, from being a drug dealer in Arkansas to the president. It goes boom like this. So it's like, I wish I could inform you more. I mean, on the higher levels or lower levels, there are all of these, it's anything from the Illuminati, that which I know for sure is part of this whole thing also, but the Jesuits, the aliens, the reptilians, you name it. But the way to make it simple for myself, because I'm a simple person, I like to try and make it understandable for myself. The way I see it, we're up against evil, and this power of evil is it just takes many different forms, but it's evil we're up against.
Well, and how important do you think the role is of money? Because, like I said, I do know that, of course, we're in an economic crisis now. I would argue around the world because of what has been labeled the coronavirus pandemic and things of that nature. But definitely, a lot of folks are in the financial woes here in the United States. I'm sure they're in financial woes around the rest of the world as well. And like I said earlier, before we got on, I know that one of my producers has talked about the fact that as far as she's been able to see a major coin, which is definitely the quarter, is she's not seeing that out anymore. So she's wondering if people aren't using that to create a war kind of environment eventually and things of that nature. But just in terms of, not even if you don't know a lot about the United States situation, but just in terms of currency and world money, because I do know that at one point there was talk of us having like a world coin, like some kind of coin that would be universal. I know there's the euro in the European area, but there's talk about there being a world coin of some sort. Some people would argue the dollar is the world coin, but we do know that other countries have other currencies as well. But I was just wondering what some of your thoughts are about the world and its money aspect.
The bankers are the head of the snake, or it's like an octopus but the tentacles are like snakes, and one of the major heads of these snakes are the banking system. The Federal Reserve, for instance, that is absolutely not federal whatsoever. It's a totally private organization and super, super, super criminal. It is on the highest level, and it's very big part of keeping us into this slavery. But money is not the thing. It's not the money that is important. They can print however much they want. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for debt. It's the debt, because it's through debt that they can control us. And that's what the game is about, total control. So if you listen to words like mortgage, for instance, that means mortgage. It's a French word that means death cage. So when they say, I will offer you a nice new mortgage with only 3% or whatever, they say, please enter the death cage. Once you get in, you will be stuck, and we will be sucking blood out of you for a long, long time. So it's the same with wars. They're a big part of the reason for wars are to create debt, where they can control nations. So you have institutions like the World Bank. I mean, once again, when you look at criminal institutions, oh my God. Then you got IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Same. These organizations are like financial hitmen that are attacking. It's like different nations are being approached is a soft word for what they do. Raped, I would say, is a better term. But different nations, if they don't stand in line or say, yes, sir, no, sir, I will bend over and just give up, they will be dealt with in different ways. And one of the ways that they do are through debt, through the World Bank, through International Monetary Fund. And they do it you've got some nations that will be invaded by military force, where the New World Order's military tool of terror is the American military and NATO. Now the United Nations are becoming more and more of a terror tool as well. But the wet dream of the New World Order is to combine these three forces, the US military, the NATO forces, and the United Nations, together as one world army, there to control us, not to protect us. And so different nations are being attacked in different ways. And one of the ways they do it with African countries and so on, which are the areas, or South American countries, which are the areas where the banking can come in and help as enforcers. One of the things they do, for instance, also through the European Union, which is their creation as well, is to say, oh, listen, we will give you this incredible loan if you start growing coffee or whatever. And then they will start handing out these loans to poor people that would just say, instead of having a multitude of fruits and trees and vegetables and handicraft and whatever that had made that society working for thousands of years, everybody is suddenly focused on, what did I say, cotton or something like that? Coffee, I said. Coffee, it can be cotton, it can be olives, it can be, you name it, like sugar canes or whatever. So suddenly that whole country is so focused on growing coffee. So they forget about everything else. Everything else is let to the side, falls apart, and everybody's just like, wow, we get this incredible profit from coffee. And so that goes for a few years. And then after a few years, the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund, who have offered them these incredibly beneficial loans, comes back and say, well, we're really sorry, but the situation has totally changed. So unfortunately, we have decided to give the task or their complete purchase of coffee to Colombia instead of that African state. And in one go, boom, they knock out the economic situation of that country. It would just go straight down the drain, because also at the same time, the loans, the World Bank will say, well, we're really sorry, but we need the loans paid now. And so, boom, suddenly you had that used to be just a few years earlier, a free nation that was working fine and everything, totally knocked out, in debt forever, with growing interest rates that will just explode. And boom, that country is one more in their pocket. So you also got financial hitmen like, what's his name? John Perkins, who used, you got real hitmen that takes out leaders that are in as a problem. They go through private contractors or the CIA to deal with them. Mossad is often in the background to knock out the top political ones. But on a lower scale, if you don't want the problem with an assassination, which can cause a lot of blowback to their operations, what they do instead is, if they've got someone who is not there to follow orders, but some real leader who just says, well, I'm standing free, I'm going to do with my country what is best for the nation. No, that doesn't work in their world. So what they do is they send, for instance, somebody like John to them, and he says, dear Mr. President, so nice to meet you today, well dressed, they look beautifully, these guys. And then they just sit down, and like John, he is told that one of the ways that he approached the leader is like, we've got this amazing offer for you. It's like of 4 quadrillion billions to you, your family, your loved ones, everybody. Also, we will invest this money in your country, but it will be in highways, ports, stuff like that will benefit the elite of that nation, not the normal people. On the contrary, we got that, but then you need to play with our rules, or in the other pocket, I've got this bullet and the name is on it is yours. So you choose, you stand up against us, you're dead within 48 hours, you follow us and play with us, you got your whole future set and billions in your account, whatever. So the few leaders that have stood up against him have ended up very dead. And the ones that have bent over have just been just a new puppet in their whole thing. And yet again, it's just a matter of how to take over a nation. So money, or especially debt, it's the debt, once again, not the money, it's the debt they're out for, because that's how they can control you. That's when they get you by the balls, and they will never let go of that one. So that's the same also with wars, how they get, they let one country attack one, they fund the country that attacks the other one, and then the country that has to defend it says, oh my God, we need weapons, and they're there saying, well, we can help you with that. So you have got these weapon dealers that are indirectly working for these agencies, not officially, but indirectly pumping the same weapon that have just been bought really cheap from another conflict somewhere in the world, just being transported, boom, sold yet again. And so the defending nation are so grateful. Thank you. We got weapons so we can defend ourselves. It's just that what they don't know is that they've just put themselves in incredible debt once again. And then the reconstruction
of would argue that that's even the case with the local citizen, because I know that that's a big complaint that people have all the time, is that whether you go off to college or university, as I know many of y'all call it in the European nations and everything, but whether you go to college or university, or whether you go to even some of the elite high schools or things of that nature, or just living day-to-day life. I know here in America, I mean, people are having some utilities that have been put on hold because of what's going on with the medical crisis. But even that is kind of questionable, because if you're put on hold for this month and it lasts for 6 or 7 months, then you got to add those 6 or 7 months, and eventually they will come and ask you to pay the 6 or 7 months back debt that you owe and everything. So I know that a lot of times people here in America are buried in credit card debt, they're buried in utility debt, they're buried in various other kinds of debt that are more on the personal side. So it sounds like that even on the lower level, like the common citizen level, they also have that same kind of theory that they use for the nations, which is basically get you buried in debt, and then you spend the rest of your life trying to get out of that.
My answer is 100% yes. It is by design on a local, on a national, and on an international level. It's the same how they do it. They do it over again. They do it to you. They do it to your cat. They do it to your country. They do it to our world. It's the same, just on different levels. And the whole thing is, there's this come to me. You can buy a new car. It can be yours tomorrow. If you just sign under your own slavery forever and ever, it can be yours. And it's really shiny and beautiful. So this is how they lure us in, but banking, it is, you have to understand also the banking system. That's the biggest hoax. Money is the biggest hoax ever. And the way it works is that The whole thing is set up against us through central banks. Because do you want me to go into a little details about this whole thing is set up? Because that is a mind-blowing
Yes, I
operation.
would love to hear how it's set up. Definitely.
Oh, okay. So in the old days, if you had an orange and I said, could I please borrow the orange? You could say, yes, here is my orange. And then I could say, well, thank you so much for lending it to me. I will give you back an orange and a tomato. The tomato would then be the interest, but the tomato would be real value. Oh, sorry, the both of them would be real value, the orange and the tomato. But what has happened, especially after the whole, it has a specific word that I'm not sure about in English, but it's all a matter about having a central bank in each nation. And the role of the central bank is like the head of an octopus, once again. So it doesn't matter if it's the window title on that bank is national this or a first this or whatever. All of them are connected into the central bank. That is key for this whole thing to operate. And that is also why many wars have been, or countries that have been attacked and been claimed to be like demonic dictators. Absolutely not. What they've been aiming for instance, in Syria, is the central bank. And now the Rothschilds, the family we were talking about before, they own and control the central banks in all nations except for 2 or 3. They are almost there. And so the whole thing works like this. Like I said, to start with, 1 orange, I borrow it, I give back 1 orange. But now the way they've set it up, it's different in different nations, but it's basically like this. They, through some legal, like they made it like this. So if a bank has 1,000, let's say here, if a bank has $1,000 in its safe, it is allowed to lend out 10 times the value. Because now, especially when everything is digital, that means, let us say that the bank has $1,000 in its safe. The rules are now that it can lend out $10,000 because it has $1,000 in the safe. So it's like 90,000. So the whole idea is $1,000 in the safe. Okay, I come in and say, I would like to buy a new car. The bank will say, well, can we trust you? Can we really trust you? What they want is to just check you out and see how obedient you are. And I say, yes, I will pay back every single cent. And if not, you can take my car, because that's the whole deal. If you don't pay the bank, they will take real value from them. But so they say, okay, I will lend you, let's say, now the value of the car was $10,000. So that gives the bank that has $1,000, it has legally the right to lend out 10,000. So how do they do that? They write you a check. A check is a piece of paper with ink on. It has no real value except that we believe it. Okay. So what they write is $10,000. Here you go. Please handle it very carefully. So you take this piece of printed paper and you go to the car dealer and you say, I would like to buy that car, which is real value, with this piece of paper, which has no real value, but we believe it. So you give it to the car dealer, who says, very good. Thank you so much. The car is yours. I will now go with this check to my bank. So it doesn't matter which bank he goes to. He will go to that bank, give the piece of paper in, that then gives that bank the possibility of lending out 10 times the value that they just put in their register through this $10,000 check. Meaning, suddenly that bank has legally the right to lend out $100,000, where $90,000 is created out of thin air. It did not exist. But because of the law saying that you can lend out from 10, if you got 1,000, you can lend out 10,000. And this just keeps repeating. And the key to the whole thing is it needs to be controlled by a central bank, so that it doesn't matter where the house owner or the car dealer, whatever, when they get the amount, whoa, I need to put it in the bank where it's safe. So they go there and it goes straight into the same system that are then allowed to keep creating debt out of thin air. And that goes on and on and on. I ask you, when you look at the world economy, how is it possible that all countries are buried in debt? Shouldn't you have some really super rich countries like the US that have lent out millions and millions and millions of dollars? How can you, if you're in debt yourself, lend out more? But and here we come in on the Federal Reserve. They are the ones who put this whole thing into a system, into like a whole machine that has then been copied around the world. And the Federal Reserve, like if I have a friend who bought a house in Norway, and the same thing there, nowadays it's digital, so you don't even have to get cash. You just on a keyboard, so you just add the value and you see in your account, oh my God, I'm a millionaire. That's amazing because I just borrowed $1 million. No, somebody just tapped in that amount, these numbers in your account, boom. I will then go and say, I want to buy that house, and they will just transfer that digital series of numbers into that account saying, now you have $1 million. Oh, amazing. But you don't. You just have these numbers in, and it's through the central bank, once again, that they can control this whole scam. It is massive. It is massive. And we put ourselves in slavery without even knowing it. The bank, if you don't pay, they will take the house, which is real value, and say, well, very sorry, you broke our trust. We're very disappointed in you, so we will just take your house. Sometimes people even have to keep paying for it. I've seen here in Spain where houses have been taken back by the bank because of tough financial situations, but then the value of the house is lower than when they bought it, meaning they will have to keep paying the difference, even though the house is gone.
Wow. And I know some people here have been very much fans of this new kind of like Bitcoins, cryptocurrency, things of that nature. How does this play into what you're talking about? Because I know that this has become very popular, and a lot of people are thinking that this is a new way to make some quick money.
Yeah, and that is a really good idea and super dangerous, because also the New World Order, what they're trying to do is not one world coin, it's a one world currency, and they want it digital. It's very important because at this point here, you can, if you go to a supermarket and you have your credit card, you say, I would like two melons or whatever, you pay with a credit card. If for some reason it doesn't work, you say, don't worry, I'll go to my bank and check it out. And in the meantime, I'll pay you here, cash, boom, boom, boom. When the cash is gone, like it is in Sweden now, the one that controls your digital chip, if it's in your hand or in your credit card or phone or whatever, controls you, meaning that, Mark, we don't like what you're saying, we don't like your program, you better stop the program or we will just shut you down. That's the control that they're looking for. Through the digital currency is super dangerous, and this is what they're trying. They're pushing us toward a one world digital currency to once again control. So Bitcoin and these things are exactly that. But they're presented to us as this is the freedom. This is the way we get away from the banks. So who invented Bitcoin? No one knows. To this very day, I don't think anyone is aware. They say it was a Chinese someone. No one has ever seen that person. Where did it come from? So could it be that we have once again the New World Order behind this whole thing saying, come this way, yoo-hoo. And then get us into this trap. So once we're there thinking, wow, I'm free now from the banks, fantastic, and boom, down comes the what do you call it? The bars around us, the prison bars around us. Or it is fantastic and the way out. It's like there's so many different digital currencies nowadays. So it's a jungle. Who knows what's going on? And I really hope it's fantastic news. Do I trust it? Absolutely not. But it's like whatever money we have, we got it in cash, digital, Bitcoin, Etho, blah blah blah. I don't even know the names. I'm so not interested in money. A little in shares. Do you know, like just some in silver? I mean, we have got very little, but it's sort of like if it crashes there, we got something there. Also, we got like food stash and stuff, things of real value if you're hungry that you can swap with. You know, a bag of beans for that watermelon. You know, then you're back to trading where it's real value shifting ownership. But this whole thing with currency, it's the
Now,
key.
there's some people speculating here that we might be heading or might already be in what could be close to the Great Depression. And we know that that was like almost several decades back. What is your feel about that? Do you think that we are heading to a Great Depression here in the United States, or for that matter, the world? Because I don't remember I think the Great Depression, if I remember my history correctly, was actually a world depression. And of course, the world was a much not as connected as it is now, but so it might not have been impactful on the whole world as it was on the United States. But definitely this one seems like it's going to be a depression that's going to hit all of the countries, if not the vast majority, but definitely I would argue probably all of them. What is your thoughts? Are we heading toward a depression based on what's going on? And I was also wondering what's your feelings about some of these world organizations, because I know that we've had conversations before about WHO, which is the World Health Organization, and about the United Nations, which supposedly was created to help unify the nations and get the nations to communicate. So I'm just wondering some of your own thoughts on those organizations and whether we're heading to a Great Depression.
Mark, can I ask you, please, one question at a time? The questions you are giving me are not, they're pretty big. So we take one at a time. Okay, so the Depression was in 1929 and this was totally by design. They created absolute panic at the stock market by design, making people freak out. And then the people who knew about that this would happen made absolute fortunes, incredible fortunes, because what is a depression for us is a massive big go yoo-hoo for the ones in the know, you know. So the depression was totally staged, and they created and made absolute fortunes. You got the Rockefellers in the background, also the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds have been there forever and ever. The Rockefellers, I think they entered on stage when oil became something of value, or they turned it into something of value, because before that it was just black that you couldn't do anything except getting dirty from. So are we heading towards another one? For sure, they would very much like to, and for sure, they are really trying to crash the finances. But at the same time, if you look at the situation before, we were going like in a dragster towards a brick wall, and nobody was slowing down, even though most could see that this is going to end really bad. And so indirectly, this shutdown of the world is a blessing. It's like a knife or a sword, you know, it's got two edges. It's beautiful and horrible. It's fantastic, and you know, it's the same here. So what happened in one way, I thought amazing. I don't know how they pull it up, but somebody pulled the handbrake on the world, saying, slow down, all of you, all of us, 1, 2, 3, I count down and stop, which has never ever happened before. So if you come from total madness, which we were in before, and then you let go of the handbrake and you say, okay, now we're moving forward, just because it doesn't look the same as it was before, which was total madness, does that mean that we're going into a Great Depression? Maybe we're going into a great optimism, you know, that our health sign that, listen, we don't need all of this crap. We're buried in stuff, folks. How much do you need? And this is also where I think that this lockdown has been positive for many people, because they've been so buried in debt by design. So you can't breathe, you can't think, you can only survive. They don't want you hungry, because if you're hungry, then you have a revolution on your hands. If you're an invisible dictator, but they just want to keep you right there where you are. Okay, you can breathe, but that's about it. So I lost the thread now. You were asking about the organizations.
Right.
Well, the bad news, what looks really nice on the surface, once you start digging, guess what you're going to find? The very same players over and over and over and over again. You got the United Nations, you got NATO, you got CDC, you got CAA, you got it's the same power structure behind them. You got the World Economic Forum, same players. You got Bill and Melinda Gates are so in the background now. They got up to that position as a quite a high level player, so they're popping up their not so beautiful faces everywhere. And so, like for instance, the World Health Organization, which sounds like an international, like totally independent organization. So not, absolutely not. The biggest funder, the US, funder number 2, Bill Gates. So it's like, go figure that how come that they are actually doing what he wants. I don't understand it. Well, it's not that difficult because they're the ones paying for it to deliver. So they will just serve his or the deep state's desires. You got the there's so many. It's so sad when you get into this things that you believed in, and then you start digging, and it's just like, oh my God, are you kidding me? The United Nations, absolute creation of the Rockefellers were the ones that donated the plot, even where the whole thing is built on. Do you do that because you're kind? No, they do it they have a purpose. And when you look into the United Nations and the European Union and these type of things, it's organized crime once again. It's like I've been interviewing people that used to work for the European Union. The European Union have their own like intelligence agencies that are controlling the people working there. They're totally with surveillance cameras everywhere. They cannot do anything. People are, this is from insiders. People have sort of felt very depressed one day and suddenly jumped out their window by somebody pushing them, not once, but multiple times, car accidents. When you stand up, boom, you're deleted. And if you, on the other hand, are loyal to the cause, your career goes boom, like this. So it's the same. And
Wow. And I know, and I'll try to keep them to one question. I know that a lot of people here are hearing the term used cultural war, or there's a war on culture. And of course, that has to do with the Confederate monuments and a lot of other things. But I was just wondering, is your research, is that just kind of like a distraction factor? Because I know even like our current president has used it, but other people in the world, I remember China using the term cultural war under Mao Zedong and others that have used that term. So I'm just wondering, how do you feel about this term of the cultural war? Because they're trying to make it seem like there's going to be this great divide among the different cultures that exist here in the United States. And I know that that's been a term used in other parts of the world as well.
The real term is divide and conquer. It's an old Roman template. This is just an upgrade. It sounds really fancy. It is not at all. It's divide and conquer. What it's all set up to do is that we should fight with each other, instead of seeing where's the problem coming from, who are creating this whole thing. So they will point. If it depends on where you are. If you're in Sweden, they would point to illegal immigrants or the immigration. If you're in the US, they would point at the minorities. Oh, it's the blacks. Oh, it's the Latinos. Oh, it's the Mexican. Oh, it's like this. If you're in Pakistan, they will show, no, it's the Sikhs, or it's the Hindus, or it's the, not that they're only Muslims in Pakistan, sorry about that, but it's the same. Sunni Muslims, Shia Muslims point towards each other, black, blue, red, green, whatever, except us really staying. Let's stay together here, hold each other's hand, and see what the hell is going on, who's creating this chaos. And boom, once you start going down that road, you will find the real problem. Divide and conquer, it's been there forever. And this whole cultural, when you look at the so-called New World Order, which is what we experience, it's given fancy names like Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's the same crap. Horror, horror, horror. But when you look at that, it's the same agenda. What they're trying to do is destroy everything. Everything. And out of the ruins of what we, the normal person, and the Joe, whatever you call him, Joe in the street, and I mean all of these beautiful people that have been working their butt off for generations to create something good, they want to destroy all of it. They want to destroy education. They want to destroy race. They want to destroy nations. They want to destroy traditions. They want to destroy handicraft. They do anything that will make us free and harmonious and stable and independent. They want to destroy it. Sex and gender as well. This whole thing with IBCQ, BLTF, I have no idea what all these letters stand for. Absolute, total their agenda to once again destroy and confuse. And then out of the ruins, boom, that's where what they call the New World Order. And that is bad news if we let that happen, because that is a one world fascist state. A global dictatorship with a one world global army, like I've described before, a one world digital currency, not good news, a one world religion, where I believe that they're going to try and destroy all religions. If you haven't seen it, they're trying to aim the religions at each other also, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Sikh, get them fighting, and then they will present to us the new world religion, a one religion where we can all unite. And I truly believe that they're using the weather to do that, so that we will all be gathered around the weather will be our new religion, where we can all agree we have to save the environment. The environment are pretty good. It's pretty okay. If you look at the reports, what is being told with global heating and global cooling down and whatever, if they stop chemtrailing and using HARP and crap like that, we're pretty okay. The Mother Earth for sure needs a break, which she's been giving a little bit here in the lockdown. But otherwise than that, when you look at the reports that we're being pumped with this whole CO2, that is another, that anyone can buy into that once you start looking at this from a scientific point of view. CO2 is good. It is what makes plants green. It is what makes plants grow. It is totally necessary. If something, we need more of it. But here, what they're looking for is taxation. They want to put taxes on everything, include carbon, because they say, you're the bad one. You are spreading that by breathing out, you horrible person. How dare you breathe out? You're destroying the environment. Absolutely not. These footprints, it's the other way around.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I know that that's the only thing that so far there you don't have to pay for. Like, I know that if you go to an apartment, you go to a house, you have to pay for water. Now, it seems to me water should be something that should be the right to everybody, just because it's necessary and it's things of that nature. But, you have to pay for your water to come into your building, your apartment, or whatever, and you definitely have to pay for electricity. But so far they haven't taxed air, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't find a way to tax it eventually, because I know that there have been even like some fictional movies where they were doing that. They were kind of like, you had to pay a certain amount of money just to get the air and everything. So I don't know, is that something you think that they may be thinking about down the line, this taxing of things that we think of as common, like air and just things that you need basically to survive?
Are you kidding me? Yeah, big time. Food, water, air. These are the ones that if we let them, they're really trying to hit us with in sort of the next level. Once again, I don't want to sound super depressing. On the contrary, I am such an optimist. I want to point that out. At the same time, you have to see what is the problem to be able to find a solution. And there are multiple problems here. It's full spectrum, silent warfare going on at this point. We are being attacked on so many different levels. And most people are not even aware of it. They just feel, I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling afraid, but I don't know why. It's because we're being bombarded. And you say this whole thing with water. Of course, that's the human right thing. Water should be free. And I have, if you look at fluoride, where fluoride is being used, it was used in the Nazi war camps to numb prisoners down. That's where they started using it. And then they said, well, this is really good because it makes people like, because the pineal gland gets totally calcified and so on. So excellent. we can shut down any aggressors and so on. So the areas that they really used for our teeth, they say, is because our teeth, fluoride is so good for our teeth. I don't know if wouldn't the dentist be sort of protesting we are running out of work because everybody is using fluoride in the water? It's an absolute baloney thing. It is there to numb us down, and especially in areas that are known for, free thinkers and freedom fighters, and so you got like Ireland, for instance. Oh my God, the water there is unbelievable. The level of fluoride you got in all the native reservations you got in Australia, they hit these areas to calm them down, numb them down, so they don't have problems with it. And I've got a friend in Ireland who's a radio host there, and he has not paid his water bill for years because he's just sent letters back to him saying, the day you deliver water, I will pay for it. What you are delivering is not water. So that is, and they're not doing anything because they know he's right. Prisons are another place that has been heavily poisoned with fluoride in the water.
And just you could let our listeners know a little bit about the history, because I know that we did not cover that last time, and I just wanted to hear a little bit about your views of it. I know that when, and this was many years ago, it was almost 20 years ago, when 9/11 happened in 2001, a lot of people were noticing that what was hit was the Trade Center, a couple of military installations, and things of that nature. So I know some folks that thought that was intentional because they looked at what was hit. It was financial, it was government, it was definitely things that would fall in the category of control. So I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it was intentional, and do you think that we had any part to do with it? You've done a lot of research on these kind of things, so I was just wondering what you have found.
When you say we, what does that mean? The US, you mean?
Yeah, US, yes.
Okay. 9/11, multi-layered operation. So I can say 100% sure, not the US, but you have core, very, very criminal core elements that are American. Politicians, Zionists, super in on it. The Bush family, super in on it. You also have like the CIA totally in on it. The Mossad also. Israel was very much involved in it. Saudi as well. It was a 100% inside job. The reason why they hit these buildings were because they were a symbol of an emotional symbol of the US. It was the highest, the biggest, the best, you know how you are. It's the World Trade Center. So in other countries, they would go emotional. They would hit like the Acropolis or the Eiffel Tower. That's one of the things that I've specialized is predicting the targets from their operation and stopping them before they go ahead. But 9/11, the thing with the two towers was to get the emotional impact, because they needed the whole world behind them to start the war on terror. That was the whole point of it. War on terror. What does that even mean? A war on a noun? Are they going to go for a verb the next time? What does that mean? Where is terror? How do you know when you won or you lost or whatever? It's an absolute BS operation, but it sounds scary and it sounds very good. So that was the whole thing. But they needed the emotional support of the world in shock to say, oh my God, something needs to be done. It's the old problem, reaction, solution. Once again, an old Roman template. So boom, it goes off. The whole world says, oh my God, you need to do something. And we turn towards the people we don't know are the ones who actually created it, saying, please help us. And they said, well, the only way we can save you with this horrible incident is, and boom, war on terror. I tell you, it's pretty interesting. You had 19 hijackers. 9 of them are still alive, are working as commercial pilots. None of them were from Iraq. None of them were from Afghanistan. And still, that was where they went to attack the whole thing. You got General Wesley Clark, I think his name is. He stepped forward and he said that the whole war on terror, everything was set and prepared. The Homeland Security Act, Do you think that, I mean, how many thousands of pages were the Homeland Security boom and the Patriot Act? How many? I mean, if you need a building permit for your doghouse, how long do you have to wait for that to go through? And then we have a thing like that. Everything was on standby. And so while we were in the shock, they just passed the law, boom, and there you go. Welcome to the New World Order version of your life, including Homeland Security, FEMA, and the Patriot Act. Totally changed the game. So the towers were hit for one of the reasons, the emotional impact. Also, every single office where the planes, I say planes like that, hit, or where there were big explosions before the buildings were dustified, these offices, including the AIG offices, were part of massive scam operation and illegal operations around the world. And the biggest gold heist also took place that very day under the cover of 9/11. While we were looking at the dust, wherever this dust was created, I mean, we can talk about that if you want, but I tell you, you cannot do that with jet fuel. I mean, it's like taking a Coca-Cola can, fill it with gas fuel, light it, and then smack it against a concrete wall. Will the concrete wall dustify? I do not think so. Will iron bars and all of these things be dustified? Where's the rubble? There should have been 13 stories high, just rubble from this. There's nothing. It's gone. It turned. Where are all the file cabinets? There were like, I don't know, 43,000 file cabinets or something. One was found. Where are all the chairs? Where are all the toilets, seats, and where are the windows? Where? Nothing except rubber and aluminum, I believe, and paper. Paper in the millions was spread out. And then this very, very bizarre dust that was spread everywhere, infecting a lot of people in a very, very bad health way. So, and then that was the target for the emotional impact. Boom, to get all of that while also getting so many things, getting rid of it. And then you had the next target, the Pentagon. There was only one military target, the Pentagon. That is the heart of U.S. military intelligence, yeah? So where did the plane, I go like this again because it was not a plane, where did that hit? It hit straight in the office that we're looking into, that there just happened to be $2.3 trillion missing. Oh, poor Donald Rumsfeld. He said the day before, he said, we're really, really sorry. We must have mislaid about $2.3 trillion. We're very sorry. We're going to look into it. And boom, the very next day it happened. The whole attention went away from that and into the dustification of these buildings. So where did the plane once again hit the Pentagon? Exactly that department that we're looking into where these $2.3 trillion disappeared. Do you know how many zeros there are to a trillion? It is unbelievable. I mean, Mark, if you suddenly just happen to you lost $230,000 from this radio show, don't you think the radio show would say like, listen, Mark, you're responsible. What did you do with them? Did you mislay them? What did you do with them? Here, well, 2.3 trillion, 3 trillion, very sorry, but we're not. But the reason for the Pentagon was that, and also make it a military target. So that justified military intervention, that they would then, we have been attacked, so we will attack, and justify this whole thing with an attack towards the exact wrong country that had nothing to do with it, and there was nothing with Iraq. None of them were from Iraq. The alleged hijackers that are still, some of them, 9 of them are still flyers. They're still flying. They stole these identities. Why? I do not know why they were so clumsy or stupid or whatever. But these people are still around flying big planes. Maybe not during the corona, but they're still pilots. Their licenses are active. So what was the question? Was inside job? Absolutely. Was it by coincidence the targets? Absolutely not. The whole thing with that plane going down I don't know what that was about in North, whatever the name was. The last one, I think it was plane 93. That was just a hole in the ground. There was no plane, and the planes were just repainted. They're still, I don't know if they're used now, but they were used several years afterwards. These planes that, oh, American Airline 101, no, they were still active. They just repainted them. They went with drones, exchanged them. You can see it on the radar. Boom, the transponder signals just swapped between the planes. One plane landed, the other one continued. And then these planes were repainted and renumbered and reused. And we were being fooled.
Wow. That's amazing. And and that seems like that's just one case, because I know we've also talked about how sometimes they will target political figures. And I was just wondering, because I'm oftentimes amazed that we have, even in the United States, I know they're all over the world, but we have the quote unquote political prisoners. I know that I get regular emails from one of the guys from Move, who would definitely be considered a political prisoner. I'm trying to remember his name. It's not coming to me right now, but he's the one that's been there in the Northeast, like the New York area for years and everything. And then, of course, you got folks like Russell Means and folks that were out of the AIM movement. And I actually had a friend on one of my other podcasts whose father is still in prison because he was a member of the Black Panthers. So he's still in prison in California. So there are definitely what people would consider political prisoners, even here in the United States, which is supposed to be the land of the free. And I know there are political prisoners all over the rest of the world as well. So if you could, I'd love to hear your take on how these folks wind up getting in that kind of situation, and also how you've managed to avoid getting in that situation, because you're doing a lot of very powerful research and powerful work.
Well, I get shaken when you say even in the United States. Your nation is the nation in the world with by far the biggest prison population. I mean, it is unbelievable. You look at North Korea and you say, oh, bad boys, or China. They're nowhere near. They're nowhere near. So how did that happen from the land of the free, or the American dream? Well, first of all, the American dream, you had to be asleep to dream. So that's a good one. That's a pointer for you to start seeing what this nation of yours. I don't want to get personal, but I have to point these things out because there's this misinterpretation of the United States as the land of the brave and free, the land of, that you are liberating countries and, from dictators and so. It's absolute, let me put it mildly, bullshit, bullshit, bull, and bullshit. It is total propaganda, and your beautiful soldiers, young, often innocent, well-meaning people that are signing up, mostly minorities, once again, because they make the education so hard for people without money, by design, once again. The ones that take the education are then drowned in debts for the rest of the world. But we need cannon fodder as well. So let's go for the minority. And so you only have to serve 3 years in a war in a foreign country with a horrible dictator, and then you will get a college grant or whatever. But the thing is, what they're looking for are assassins, trained killers to do their dirty work. Now we're talking about the New World Order again. These wars that are often named, the Operation Stardust, Operation Freedom. I mean, come on. It should be Operation Absolute Brutal Slaughter, absolute unjust warfare, rape, and destruction. That is the way these things should be labeled. And they're totally based on the incredible greed of these psychopaths that are ruling this whole thing, or up until now have been pushing this whole agenda. And what is the price? The price is that young, innocent people that are just trying to do their duty for their country, and you applaud them every time they appear in uniform. What they're doing, they're being sent to innocent countries. The only crime they have done is that they've got lots of poppy fields or oil or minerals, or that uranium is there, or they're a really good spot for fighter planes and bombers to land and be refueled and so on. That's the only so-called crime they've done. These are totally innocent countries, but the New World Order needs a reason for them to go there and bomb the living bejesus out of these innocent countries. And then they send in troops of of beautiful individuals. I tell you, most soldiers that I met, to start with, fantastic individuals. Then they get totally pumped up with I don't know how many awful vaccines. That is such a cocktail of you name it. I mean, we're talking like advanced experimentation on human beings under the code, and also breaking them down mentally, kill this whole thing, so that there's no hesitation once you get the order. Shoot that woman, shoot that child, shoot that. And the thing is, it's not even for the soldier's own benefit or greed. It has no benefits for that person at all. And many soldiers, I've spoken to a lot of them, they go there, they believe that they are doing the right thing. We're going to liberate this country. Why are people throwing rocks at us? Why are they shooting at us? Because you're not welcome. You are the enemy. And so what happens is they put themselves, or they are ordered into a situation where suddenly maybe they have to whack a whole family, or blow the head of an innocent child or something. And they are the ones who have to suffer this. These top psychopaths, they don't care at all. They would never do them themselves because they have absolute zero spine or courage themselves, but they sign the order, go bomb that, go shoot that, do whatever. And then these beautiful individuals are destroying their souls by doing these things. It's not by coincidence that you have got so many suicides by so-called veterans. So if your leader, whatever the leader is, a beautiful, George Bush or Nixon or Obama, okay, so we have the heroes, they come back in uniform, everybody is applauding, whoa, stand up, we gotta thank you so much for your service for this nation. Okay, so how are they treated when they get back? Is the government saying, well, thank you so much for being working for us and putting yourself at risk and maybe getting an arm or a leg blown off? So incredibly, we're so grateful for your service. No, they give them the finger and they say, you can stay out on the street. We will just leave you in your own diapers in some veterans hospital that are so underfunded that it's awful. It's awful. And so many, I spoke to Chip Tatum. He's a CIA whistleblower who is now really devoting himself to help the veterans as well. And he said, I don't know if this is true, but according to him, if I remember right, it took up to 6 years for a returning veteran to get the benefits that he was promised to start with. 6 years. Who can wait 6 years, especially if you're totally messed up mentally after doing things that are so against human nature? Yeah. Oh, it really gets to me.
Yep, definitely. And I was just wondering, you talked about the war on terror earlier, almost a fiction. I was also wondering about the oil war, because it seems to me that if you've got 2 or 3 of the richest families all involved in that, and we know that the House of Saudi is definitely Saudi Arabia, and then you've got like definitely some American families that are involved in the oil industry as well, the Bushes and stuff like that. So it seems to me that that would be almost a misnomer as well, this kind of oil war, because are they in the room together? Are they making the negotiations together? Are they basically the same family?
Have you got wars between rivals when it comes to drugs, mafia? That's what we're looking at. They're knocking out the competitors. But it's multi-layered. Once again, I cannot say yes or no. I need to know the exact war, the exact situation, whatever. But oil is once again control. It's control. There's fantastic inventions since many, many years with vehicles that can drive with water, especially dirty water. And the thing that comes out is pure, clean water particles. Fantastic. It even cleans it while it burns it. So we got all of these inventions that could make the world oil-free like this. It's there, but it's been suppressed. So why are we still driving around? Why are we destroying our air with all of these exhaust horrible? Because that is a real problem. It's because the oil industry wants us to only dry and use their product. So who are they? We're back to the exact same again. Who it's like when you look into the Rockefellers, for instance, they were the ones that turned oil into something usable, because before that, I told you before, it was useless. Then they through Henry Ford, they managed to get it to a position where it became really valuable. So this black thing, suddenly became, whoa, you hit an oil like that, which was on the Rockefeller ground, suddenly you're a millionaire and you can start pushing the prices up. Then then that just expands and expands, and it went into the Middle East with Saudi and these different oil emirates and so on. They were given these countries, just on a map with a ruler and a pen. Take that, take that, take that. Nobody knew that it was oil underneath it. And then these desert people suddenly found oil, and boom, they got into this incredible power position, which was a major problem for the New World Order. So I also want to say, do you know why marijuana is illegal?
No, why?
No, it's the Rockefellers once again. I think it was 1912 that the Rockefellers, before that, marijuana, the plant, was worshipped as a miracle plant, a plant that you can make anything of, clothes. Henry Ford made the interior. I also think many of the parts to his cars was made out of hemp, from the marijuana car. You can,
the Constitution was even made out of hemp.
Sorry?
The Constitution was even made out of hemp.
Well, there you go. And then the medical characters of this plant is just, it's mind-blowing. I would say, I'm not very good at smoking because I go, so I'm not good at a drug user. But I tell you, when you look at the benefits of this plant, it is like, wow. You can build houses, whatever you can use that plant. So the Rockefellers saw that as a massive threat and managed to get it labeled as a drug. So it was the Rockefellers that were behind it, labeling it as a drug, and shut it out. And then they started the whole prosecution thing just to get rid of the competition. That's it.
Wow. And what about the space wars? Because that's the other thing. I've noticed that we're going back into space again. I guess we're trying to go to different planets. A new, I guess, relatively new millionaire in the sense of Elon Musk seems to be really much behind that and behind the thing that's with Tesla and some of the other things. But I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on both space and ocean exploration, because it seems to me that those are the two that are happening, more space than ocean. And I don't know why that is, because the ocean probably still has a lot more. As a matter of fact, I know it has a lot more, because one of our other shows here, there was a young lady from Florida, originally from Nicaragua, that does ocean exploration, and she was saying that we've only covered about 10 to 15% of the ocean. So in terms of exploration, whereas we've covered, probably not that much of space because we only covered one galaxy, but definitely I think that we've got a lot more that we can cover in the ocean that we haven't covered. But I was just wondering what your thoughts are on space exploration, and particularly how some of the money people play into that, and some of the new money, because there's new money involved as well as the old money, because a lot of people you've mentioned are older money. I guess the Gateses would be considered relatively new money, but definitely Elon Musk and some of these others are more newer money than the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds.
I'm the wrong person to ask about space. I don't know enough. I know that NASA, which is supplying us with a lot of information that we believe, most of us believe, some of us believe, was created in coordination with Operation Paperclip after the Second World War, when there was an export from Nazi Germany, an import into USA and South America through the red lines of the Vatican, where they smuggled these German scientists to the US, and they were part of creating, or part of evolving, the OSS into the CIA. We're talking in the years right after the Second World War, 46, 47, 48, and 49, when NATO was created, where NASA was one of these creations where they used some of these 1,600 scientists, very highly skilled, very intelligent people, that were taken. They were officially war criminals, and then taken that. They just forgot about the criminal record and put them into service. And one of the things that they created was NASA. And I tell you, the more you look into NASA, the more you look into these alleged moon landings and space shuttles and I don't know what. And it's like, once you really start seeing, it's like, I don't know if there's ever come anything out of NASA that is true. Also, when you see the amount of people that have been working on thousands and thousands and thousands of photos from what we are being told is space, that are Photoshop artists. What are they doing with these? When you look at, for instance, you see these incredible images of space and the colors and galaxies, and it's like, how do we know it's out there? You can't see it. It's too far away. And they're always cross stars. Have you noted that? Just like with a cross star filter like this. Where did they come from? Where? And these massive big, what do you call them? Not microscopes. What do you call them? Sorry?
Binoculars?
Yeah, but we're talking like these massive big, where they say that, well, we're going to look out into the to the universe. We're going to see all of these things. I mean, we're being told a very convincing story, that I can tell you. But like one of the biggest one, what was it called now again? And they were just about to finish it, and then they found out, we forgot the lens. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We forgot the lens. That was the Hubble. So they created that whole thing. They just, sorry, it's like you buying new glasses and then, well, sorry, the lenses are not there, but we hope you won't even notice. But if you notice the amount of money that are being pumped into NASA for these apparent rocket launches, stuff like that, it is incredible. When you look at the footage, you will see the exact same background. You will see no stars, and that you can find nothing that will give you any kind of idea of direction where they actually are. You will see that there's so many things that doesn't match up at all. You will see, sometimes you can see when in these space shuttle stations, whatever they call them, you can see when they move around, suddenly you can see the wires because they're wire rigged. And they move around, you can see the wires. Sometimes you can see water bubbles coming out because they're underwater while filming this whole thing. It's a massive, big scam that costs us billions and billions. And so you're asking me about space. I have no idea. I know what I'm being told, but I know that so many of these things that we're being told, absolute BS. And I love there was one guy that went around. I mean, when you look at all of the people that are said to have been on the moon, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and these guys, all of them very high Freemasons. And you got the flag that is going like this in the background, like, sorry, no wind, but it's still doing like this. You've got like 4 shadows in all different directions. How is that possible? 1 sun, 1 shadow. No, there's 4. You got who filmed when the moon lander took off from the moon? Did they leave one guy there to just like, I'm just going to come after you, I'll film it, and then I'll just, throw out a rope and I'll join you? Who filmed that? Who, the light, everything, BS. And so this guy, I can't remember his name, he looked up all of these astronauts that have been officially on the moon with a Bible saying, please do me a favor, just put your hand on the Bible and swear I have been to the moon. None of them did it. They got so upset with him. One of them, you can hear, he knocks on the door. I can't remember if it was Neil Armstrong or whatever, but he opens the door. You can hear the recording where this guy is being thrown out. And then you can hear in the background, the son of this alleged astronaut, he says, Dad, do you want me to call the CIA and get him whacked? It's bizarre. But once again, what is the problem? And Buzz Aldrin recently was interviewed, and he was drunk as usual, by a young girl, in his 7-8 years in a school somewhere. And she's asking him about how it was to be on the moon. And he says, but please, my child, you have to understand, we never went there. His words, not mine. So
wow.
I'm the wrong
Yeah.
person to ask, but it's the perfect hole to pump in billions of tax money, because who can control it? Who can say, well, I'm going to look at the moon and I will see, no, did you do well with them, or did you use them the way they were supposed to? We have no idea. We just pump in billions and billions and billions instead of taking care of this planet, may it be round or flat or whatever. I don't know. But don't you think that that money could be used in a much better way down here, because there's a lot of suffering going on?
Oh yeah, a whole
And
lot of stuff ain't going on. I know we got to get ready to wrap up and everything, but the other question I was going to ask you is, I was actually amazed, and I don't know if you've been doing research on this, but and if you can clarify for the listeners if you have, because I know you've done so much research on so many things. But I know that I was talking to one of my friends, and we were talking about the wars in the world, and it occurred to me that at least here in the United States, the last war that was actually a declared war was World War II. So apparently, all the other wars that we've been fighting were never actually declared, because supposedly here, and I guess it's that way in the rest of the world too, you're supposed to go through a process, like to make sure that it's approved not just by the president, but also by the senators and the legislators, and it is actually vetted by several different sources, and then it's allowed to happen. But everything from what we talked about earlier, the war, the Middle Eastern war, to Vietnam, to Korea, they told me, and I don't have any reason to doubt them, that we haven't had an officially declared war since World War II.
yeah, and I do believe, I can't swear on it, but I do believe that that is true. And wouldn't that tell you something, that some very strange things are going on here? And also, if you look at who is behind these wars that we are being said, oh, it's because you got this demonic dictator there, you got another demonic dictator there. We have to go and protect the people of that country by bombing the living crap out of that nation, destroy the whole thing, and liberate them, and then rebuild them for money that we will lend to them so that they can pay off their debts forever and ever and ever. The reconstruction is part of the whole setup as well. So you have, for instance, after the Second World War, a country like Germany is under American occupation to this day. They have not been liberated after the Second World War. Germany is not a free nation. It is under American occupation, and the CIA is so much there as well, very, very dominant with all of these military bases. And I also want to say, like, if, I don't know, is it 1,600 military bases the US have around the world? I think some. If that had been China, how would you feel? If that had been Russia, how would the rest of the world feel? But now, because it's America and you make good hamburgers and jeans, we're supposed to say, well, it's fantastic. Thank you ever so much. I say, go home. Go home. This is the action of a global bully. I quote Chip Tatum. He's a CIA whistleblower. He was the commander of George Bush Sr.'s private hit team, Pegasus. I've done multiple interviews with him. He says, the real terrorist of the world is the US military. And I think that is so sad. I mean, that is just heartbreaking when you think of it, because that is not the way it should be. And so many, especially in the US, who believes that the center of the world is the US, that there are hardly any countries on the outside. I would say I've been to more than 50, and they were very different to the US. They even had culture that went back to more than a couple of hundred years, and they were not with footprints in blood wherever they went. So why are we supposed, or are you supposed to have all of these military bases all over the place? And when you look at where they are, you will see that they're very much coordinated with drug trading, with all kinds of illegal activities, with pedophile trafficking, with organ trafficking. It's horrible, but it's done under the cover of military conflicts, where you go in to save or free and bomb the living, and then once that's done and you've been part of rebuilding the whole thing, also with the help of nations like Sweden in an awful way, then you say, well, that's sorted, and then now we're going to go home. The only thing is that you leave military bases, boom, 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 just to make sure that it won't happen again. No, because you were the one who created it to start with. So these military bases, all of these fantastic young, well-trained, disciplined people. Can you imagine what they would do if they were brought home and used to rebuild the nation that is now falling apart, to clean up the ghettos, to make the whole thing flourish, melt down all of these guns, and anyone who are in the military-industrial complex, I say, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. And that goes for Sweden as well. Neutral country, oh my God, I think not. It's like, when you look at how these weapons are developed, like mines, if we talk about Sweden again, mines that cannot be detected and are aimed at, some of them are aimed at children. I mean, that it just is beyond. And how much power of destruction is needed for defense. By the way, who is threatening the US? That's like saying, like you go into a nursery with Mike Tyson, and a child happens to puke or pee on his foot, and he just beat that child to death because he's defending himself. That's the exact same balance for the rest. The US has more military force, as far as I know, than the rest of the world together. So how much is needed? And please understand, I'm not saying this about the normal American citizen. I'm saying you are paying for it. Without understanding it, you are paying for all of this. It is for the military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex and the medical-industrial complex. It's out of destruction that they make their money. Our destruction, our pain, that's where their benefit comes from. So we have to bring it back home, And many times I speak directly to soldiers trying to reach their heart and just say, please, I ask you, before you follow orders, before you fire that shot that will follow you to the end of your days, you are the one that will have that on your eyes, printed on your irises, the shot off head of that child, or the woman that you by mistake blew away, or the old grandmother or whatever. You are the one who have to live with it. So just because somebody's shouting an order, shoot, that you have a choice. You do have a choice. Yes, you might lose your pension, but you will gain your soul. I mean, it has to stop. It has to stop. And especially people in uniform are protecting this whole mayhem from us. They should be there serving us. They're being told, I swear this oath of freedom and I will follow the institution. But that's not exactly what you're doing. You are letting them rule us through you.
Wow. And I'm real quick, and we need to wrap up and everything, but how do you feel about, because I know the big conversation here, even in like our political discussions, is whether we need to go the capitalist route or the socialist route. I know some people are thinking that we might need to do our kind of like things that have to do with needs like water and things of that nature, more on the socialistic side, and then have like a mixed economy, I guess is the way that I've heard a lot of people describe it. So I was just wondering what some of your views are. You live in Spain, and I'm not sure what Spain's government is in terms of, I think it's a monarchy if I remember correctly, but just what are some of your views on world politics? Is there like something that you think would be the best model, not just for the US, but for the world?
I would say politics is an absolute waste of life. I have never listened to a politician because I started to see what they were up to. They will tell you whatever you want to hear, and they will do whatever they're being told. So why? And this whole voting thing, it's just, getting you into the spider web, believing you have a choice. The thing is, it's like this. I don't know if we said it in the last show. You have like this in more or less all countries with democracy. You got like 2 major parties and then 3 in the middle, some minor ones. So you can go right, or you can be left, or you can be in the center, or you have some options in the middle. The thing is that we don't understand is the game is rigged. It is rigged, just like my fingers. All of them belongs to me. So it's like, Mark, which finger do you want to choose? Which one? It's still me. That's why nothing changes. and then we just change the cover. So the cover is called Bush or Obama or you name it. Possibly Trump is an exception. I do not know. But he's the first one where there's doubt, because the other ones just very nice covers. I mean, Obama, beautiful man, sounds fantastic. Actions, oh my God, awful, awful, awful. Worst war criminal. But he is not the one. He's just another cover. He's the one saying beautiful things, read from teleprompters. Whatever you want to hear, he will tell you. And he's doing great in TV studios. I love listening to him. Do I trust him? As far as I can spit, not. I absolutely zero. I don't trust him at all. Bush Senior, oh my God. Oh my, there's a real player. Oh, yo. Bush Jr., absolute joke. Only there as a cover for his dad, because his dad was really part of this whole thing. So politics, an absolute joke. Waste of time, waste of energy and life. So how to do it? How can we do it? The thing is, all of us are equipped with a heart. And in that heart, we know. We were born with a compass that say it is not right to hurt someone. When you look at a 2-year-old with a cat or a chicken, they're so in awe of this creature. Would they hurt it? Yes, if we had messed the child up before. If not, absolute no way. They know. That's how it should be. But what we've been so messed up by messed up people that were messed up by messed up people that was messed up by messed up people, and so on. So it's gone down in generations. Some and a lot of propaganda to also get us off track from listening to the heart. Because when you look at it, I mean, I'm not religious, but like the Bible had a pretty good setup of rules. It was 10. There were 10. Do not kill. That's a good one to start with. Do not steal. Love it. Do not lie. Get that one. Don't go for somebody else's husband or wife. Fine. Treat other people the same way you want to be treated. Great. I mean, these are very clear. Boom, 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 boom. Stay away from them. You don't need a lot else. Just treat other the same way you want to be treated. Be just, be honest, be truthful, don't hurt. In Raja Yoga, the perfect action is something that hurts no one and brings some benefit to someone, yourself included. That is a perfect action. To do no harm, So if you go from that one, I tell you, we don't need rulers. Do you know the word government, what that means? Governmente, it means control the mind control, governmente. In German and Scandinavian languages, it's the name for government is rulers. We elect our rulers. I think not. They have totally misused our trust, and it's right in our face. So also our mind, we need to calm this down and purify it, get the crap out of that, a good rinse. I would say let brainwashing have a good sense, get it down in the water, get out all the crap out. Hard work. Is it difficult? Yes. Impossible? No. Get the crap out there so that you can start behaving in balance and harmony and treat the world around you the same way. And then go from here down to the heart, the longest travel for many people, but is the most important one. And then follow the heart. Do no harm. Be honest. Don't steal. Don't kill. And if people start living like that, I tell you, oh my God, what a beautiful place. And I want to say, you're a musician, so listen to Louis Armstrong. What a wonderful world. That is the approach we should have to the world. Appreciation and gratitude, and see thy neighbor as somebody beautiful that are, especially the ones you fear. I would say, invite them for a cup of coffee. Go and say, listen, for some reason, I'm fearful of you. I've never met you, so it's absolute weird. Would you mind if I buy you a cup of coffee, we sit down and just have a talk? And very often that person is just as afraid of you because of your skin color or race or length or height or whatever it is, nationality, I don't know. And it's it's a wonderful way, I tell you, to find new friends, because the ones you fear are often the ones that will free you as well. It's the same when you meet your own fears. The liberation is great.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm gonna share a story with you, and then I want to hear just like maybe one last wrap up thought from you. But you're so right. I remember I'm 58 now, but I remember when I was in high school ages, and I actually went to a camp. It was a journalism camp, but I went to that camp at University of North Carolina, and there were some people with a Upward Bound program, which is like a program that helps youth that are like lower class or whatever. I don't even like using those kind of terms, but they came from like the ghetto areas and kind of things of that nature. And I ran track. I was a very bad track runner. I'll admit that. I admitted it then. I admitted it all along my life. But I was a good recruiter, so I recruited people. So I went to that track meet, but I was also talking junk, and he was talking junk, and we were talking junk to each other. And I challenged him to a race, knowing good and well that I was probably going to lose that race. But I challenged him to a race, and I talked myself out of going to that race. So I was like, I'm not going to go to the race. This is a young 17, 18-year-old kid. I'm like, I'm not going to that race. That kid's going to eat me alive in terms of racing. So I challenged myself not to do it and not do the race and everything. But I told my friends that I was going to do the race. And these are people from high schools in other states. Like I think they were South Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, other places. And they I talked myself out of running. And I was like, I'm not going to do that run. I'm not going to do it at all. And then I finally convinced myself. I think we were supposed to run at like 3:00, but I convinced myself around 4:30. Well, I'm going to go down there and see. I'm going to at least go down there and show up. And even though I was scared and like all of that, so I went down to the track field. And I saw some of my friends that were leaving. There have been some others that had been there to watch us race and everything. And I think that I asked one of the young ladies, I was like, so and I don't remember his name, but we'll call him Tom. I was like saying, did Tom show up? They're like, no, Tom didn't show up either. So like I said, I think he was just as scared of me as I was of him, even though we were both probably talking a lot of junk about how good we were as high school young men and everything. But we were talking all this junk that we both talked ourselves out of it, and neither one of us showed up at the race. So I'm sure his friends were probably talking about as much junk about him as my friends were at that age. And like I said, that was some almost 35 or 40 years ago. So some of those details of the story may not be exactly right, but you get the gist of the storyline is that I was sitting there and talking myself out of it. And I think that that's what we as a society do a lot of times, is talk ourselves out of doing good things and things that we should be doing. We shared a lot in the world and a lot of the things that you've been researching and things of that nature. You're concerned. I appreciate you doing that once again. And like I said, definitely enjoy having you on this time, last time as well. And hopefully we'll get you back on in some future ones, because I know we said that we would love to do several of these conversations with you over the course of months and everything. But that being said, are there any like final thoughts that you want to give people that are words of encouragement? Because like I said, we've given them a lot of really deep things to think about, like whether the space exploration existed, whether some of these other things were going on, definitely some of the ways that the government has controlled our thoughts and minds. We didn't touch on education. Maybe we'll touch on that next time, because I've been involved in education testing. So I have some thoughts on that, and I'm sure you too as well. So maybe we'll touch on that on one of our future conversations, or if you just want to allude to it in your answer, you can. But are there any words of encouragement that you can give? Because with so much going on in the world, whether it's coronavirus, whether it's the Black Lives Matter movement and the race relations that are kind of coming out, whether it's people's own economic concerns about being broke or having finances. A lot of people, I was talking to a friend of mine in California. She was calling it like there's this malaise that's going around the world, and it's because of the way that we're being intaking all of this information. And she was feeling it. She felt that I was feeling it because she's of Asian descent. So sometimes people of different cultures are more in tune to their spirituality than others. At least that's my thoughts on that. But I'm just wondering, are there any thoughts that you have that you would give people in terms of words of encouragement when we're facing all of these hard times that are going on, when we've given them a lot to think about just in our conversation here in the last hour or so?
I would say life is magical. Life is so beautiful. It is so magnificent. It is so, oh yeah, yeah. It is magnificent. And then there are there's a small little, like a cancer growth of forces, individuals, psychopaths, you name it, whatever you want to call them. They are very, very few that wants to control us. It's just like a serial killer in New York. One man with a knife, one crazy individual with a knife can terrorize a whole city. We're exactly in the same situation. It is exactly like that, but this is called the New World Order. Or the so-called elite. They call themselves the elite. I have words that would be a lot less flattering, to say the least. But they're so few. They are so few. So how can they control us? How have they been able to control us for such a long time? It is only, and I repeat, only through fear. It is only through fear that we will let ourselves be controlled. And that's where these operations come in, with diversion, confusion, divide and conquer. All of that is to get us out of balance so that they can get back and get us in a fear mode. So if fear is the only tool they have against us, then I would say the way out is not be fearful. And you asked before, how come I'm still alive? I don't know. I'm very grateful. I would like to stay for a while, but I am certainly being a major pain in the butt for these forces. If not, I had totally failed, but I know I am. And I have death threats. I've had people killed around me. I changed country. That's why I'm in Spain since 20 years, because of these things. So I paid officially a high price. Do I complain? Absolutely not. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. So the wonder with fear is that it's only in your mind. The fear is not out there. I can't take your fear from you. You can't give me any of your fear. You can scare me and activate my fear, but it's mine. And where is it located? Oh, it's between my ears. That's where it is. It's only in my mind. So is it real even? No. It is an emotion or a thought or whatever you want to call it, an energy. And it's always, once again, this is the beauty of it, it's always connected to the future, meaning it has not yet happened. Once again, a total waste of time. So even if somebody pulls a gun and aim it at your head, if you think of it logically, there's nothing really to fear until, boom, the shot is fired and something enters your head. At that point, I would be somewhat concerned. But up until that point, really, when you think of it, it's all in your imagination. I'm going to die. I'm going to this. Maybe the gun is made of licorice. Maybe it's not loaded. Maybe, you don't know. And it's the same here. I tell you, it's a full spectrum silent war that is going on here. Why? Because they're terrified. They're terrified of us seeing how weak they are, how few they are. It's just like the Wizard of Oz. We are pulling the curtain. I am really doing everything I can to be in the front line of pulling this curtain and showing that is not a big, powerful Wizard of Oz. It's a tiny little weak individual with the quality of his personality as yogurt and no courage whatsoever. The only thing he has is a microphone and a massive amplifier. That is the outlet of info through mainstream media and through a lot of the internet. So if you turn off these screens in front of you, this mayhem will stop. The fear-mongering will stop. It really will. So I say there's this magic button on the remote. It's often round and red. Press it. It says off, because that is what's holding you in this fear. The news, breaking news. No, it should say, get shit scared. Here's another one. Are you scared now? I'm going to give you this one. What about now? That is what they're doing. And then they end up with a little sunny story. And there was a bear cub that went up into a tree, so that you won't feel totally raped, but you will still be like, whoa, totally knocked out. So I say, why are they so afraid of us? It's not only the numbers, it's also because we are incredibly creative individuals with a free mind that also can be part of creating absolute wonders. And these individuals do not have that. That's why they keep using the same operations over and over and over. The same template for mass shootings, the same script over. Terror attacks, Allah Akbar, ISIS flag. Whoa, it's the same, like watching the same Rocky movie 400 times. It's the same. So, what to do? Free your mind. How do you do it? Not the easiest thing, but necessary. It's mandatory, I would say. Meditation is one way that helps a lot of people. Raj Yoga, I can certainly totally recommend it. Raja Yoga, that's the science of the mind, not a religion. It's a philosophy and a manual how to control this one. Because according to Raj Yoga, the mind is like a drunken monkey stung by bee, high on acids. They will go. It's like a rodeo horse that can just go totally wild on you if you do not pull the reins and learn how to control it, so that it becomes your servant instead of you being its slave. So, Mark, I would very much like to finish with a prayer. And I really hope that if anyone is depressed now, confused, great, depressed, then I totally failed. Then it would have been better for me to shut up, because then I would go their errand by scaring even more people. I am not here to do that. I'm here, hopefully, to make the fog lift so that we can see clear what's actually going on. And there is a prayer that I absolutely love. And the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. That's the entire, every single little corner be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth overcome all darkness. No violence, no revenge, no hatred. The light of truth overcome all darkness. So victory to that light. See the beauty. Don't buy into this fear, and ask yourself 2 questions every time you get, is it true? Is it true? Can you go out and see that what I've just been told is true? Even though maybe it was 2 miles down the road. Were you there? Did you actually see it? Do you know for sure that it was true? Ask yourself, is it true? So before I shit myself, I want to find out, is it true? And then number 2, who benefits from me believing it? And watch out for the solution that would come. The ones that they would say, well, because of this, we will, and boom, in comes the solution. Because problem, reaction, solution. And now, Mark, I will be quiet.
All right. Well, I appreciate you definitely giving that great insight and everything. You were a great guest, as you were last time, and I greatly appreciated you. I did have one of the listeners that was commenting, and they have a show as well. I'm not sure if it's a podcast or one of our shows here, but she goes by the name of, or he, Sandy Khan, and they did say that they had asked London Real to invite you as a guest. So it definitely looks like you've got some folks that were definitely inspired by what you said, and definitely are looking forward to having you on the show or on some other shows as well. So definitely, matter of fact, they just wrote peace and joy, love and light, and that they thank you for being on the show. So definitely appreciate you being on as well, and definitely look forward to, like I said, having you on again in the not too distant future. And I do know that they're not just this one, but also my friend Zach and some others that are definitely enjoying learning from you and getting insight from you. And like you said, learning about having that curtains revealed so that we see the true light of what the wizard is all about. So I do know that there's some others that might be reaching out to you as well. And like I said, I've done this now with you twice, and every time I think that it's going to be a short interview, but you give so much insight and so much powerful knowledge that we wound up talking for a long time. As a matter of fact, I thought that this one was going to be, and I know you did as well, but it might be like about an hour, and we've already gone close to 2 hours. So we oftentimes have these great conversations, but there's so much to be learned and so much knowledge to be shared. And you've done all this research, as you said, for some 40 plus years. So definitely you've revealed a lot and continue to reveal a lot. So just as somebody that I now consider one of my new friends, I definitely appreciate you being on, and look forward to having you on again in the not too distant future.
I feel proud of calling you my friend, Mark, and anytime, anywhere I can be part of making a difference for the better, count me in. Frontline, secret meetings with whoever, you know, especially like people in the forces or police or whatever. I've been to meetings, they've been sitting with plastic bags over their head. Not a problem. I don't want to know anything about them. It's just that I've spent a lot of time trying to do my utmost. And if that can come to the benefit of all of us, then please use it.
Sounds good. Definitely appreciate you being on again, and I look forward to hearing again from you sometime in the near future. Like I say, definitely if folks are listening and they want to reach out to you, could you give your website one more time where they can reach out to you, just so they know how to reach you and everything of that nature?
It's Light on Conspiracies. Light like the light, LIGHT, Light on Conspiracies, plural, because there's so many going on. I'm on Patreon as well, patreon.com/Light on Conspiracies. My YouTube channel has been totally destroyed. I've been under a heavy attack from all different kinds of areas, but I still have my website, and I've got a membership area. I've got a monthly newsletter where I show exactly what I believe is going to happen. I've publicly now, up to 2 months before it actually happened on international radio, predicted and sometimes stopped 59 of these alleged terror attacks and mass shootings. And one of the things that I want to is try and share to as many as possible to see the signs of how these operations are carried out, so that we can, even in the beginning stages of when they're trying to do it to us, reveal it right away, stop it right away, boom. Because you see, once you start seeing the boxes being tick, 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 you can be part of stopping it. So that's a main emphasis on mine. And if anyone would like to support me and help me on my quest for truth, as the beautiful saying is, then I've got donation buttons. I've got also, if anyone is interested in research, I have what I call my private research vault, which is 2.4 terabyte of information, videos, documents, you name it, in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases, perfectly organized and so on, where a lot of this information has now been deleted from the internet. So we need to hold on to this because it's of historical value, and that as well I give access to for people who approach me. So lightonconspiracies.com.
Sounds great. I hope that you get some new folks joining you and everything, and definitely giving you the support that you deserve for all this great work that you're doing. And definitely, I'll try to find ways to continue supporting you. Both, like I said, having you on this show and trying to get other folks to engage you as well in these kind of conversations. So once again, I do want to thank you for being on the show, and I'm here to end the broadcast right now. But if folks have any questions to ask of me about the show, they can reach me at bluesradio@gmail.com. And this is a special edition of the radio show with Mark Lee. We usually air on Monday afternoon, but because of Ole's schedule and some other things that I had going on, we did this as a special edition. So I've done a couple of those, including the one that I did with Nadine Hack out of Switzerland and a couple of other folks. So definitely we do these special editions, oftentimes with people from other parts of the world, because sometimes their schedule, I believe, is actually probably close to afternoon time where Ole is and everything. So definitely we do these kind of special shows as well. But definitely hope that folks will go back and listen to the rebroadcast, and of course join us on our various other platforms, our various other shows that we have here on IBM.TV. One is actually about chess players. My friend Jim Eid does that, as well as Alexandria's show out of South Africa, where she touches on musicians from around the world. And those are just two of the shows that come off the top of my head in terms of like memories. Oh, we do have Podcast Thursdays where we have podcasters from around the nation. So definitely looking forward to folks learning about those shows. And of course, you can also catch me on my other podcast, which is on Blog Talk Radio, and that is Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. So that's on Monday nights. One of these times I have to get Ole on that, just because he'll have to stay up way early in the morning, since that's like at 7 o'clock. So he's giving me that grin on his face like, nope, don't think so. That's not happening.
But listen, Mark, since I know you're into music, if you go to Spotify and you search my name, you will find I've got one album there called From Prison to Paradise. And who knows, maybe you're going to like it. I hope so. But
Sounds good. I'll definitely check it out. I'll definitely check out your music because, like you said, I love all kinds of music. So I look forward to checking it out and seeing what it's all about. But once again, I do want to thank you for being on, and I'll get ready to end the broadcast right now. But I'll still have you on the studio with me. So even though I'm hitting the end broadcast button, we can just talk real briefly as I wind up the show. So assume that wants to work. Yep. End broadcast.